Tonight on CFTK-TV, the Thornhill Fire Department has acquired new equipment. The Assembly of First Nations is urging the Canadian government to advance their calls to action, and there continues to be a growing demand for detox centers in the Northwest.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, I'm Damian Smith, and thank you for joining us here on CFTK-TV. Well, in a historic milestone for local reconciliation, the new totem pole at the Haisla Bridge was raised yesterday. The pole was carved by Haisla carver Nathan Wilson, and the installation of the pole is part of ongoing reconciliation efforts between the district and the Haisla. As the calls for a detox in the Northwest continue to grow more intense, some action on the matter has been confirmed, and here's CFTK's Jaylene Matthews with more.
MP Taylor Bachrach brought the need for detox in the Northwest to the House of Commons Friday.
Mr. Speaker, toxic drugs continue to kill people's loved ones in northern BC at an alarming rate, and First Nations families are disproportionately affected. In Terrace, the rate of death from toxic drugs is the second highest in our province. The Northern First Nations Alliance has been pushing for years for more detox and treatment capacity so people don't have to travel to the Lower Mainland for services. The Alliance has urged this Liberal government to help. Why hasn't the government acted?
The Honourable Minister of Addictions and Mental Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member for his question. Mr. Speaker, there is no community that has been left untouched by the illegal toxic drug supply. It has been a tragedy for so many communities that are losing their loved ones, and we know that Indigenous communities are disproportionately affected. And we've answered that call of listening to communities, Mr. Speaker, in Budget 2024 with the Emergency Transfer Fund, which will be launched shortly to work directly with community to address the overdose crisis. We know that communities need help. We've been there for them with over $1 billion in investments to date, and we will continue to do the work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
On the municipal level, Mayor Sean Boytash took the topic to the recent UBCM convention.
The big thing was treatment and detox is one of the biggest things. There's definitely a lot of other provincial responsibilities that aren't being met in our community, healthcare and things like that. But on the treatment and detox front, we did not sit down with Minister Whiteside because she was unavailable for personal reasons, but we did sit down with the Deputy Minister, and the Deputy Minister has confirmed that they are currently seeking property in Terrace area to build treatment and detox, so dedicated treatment and detox for the Terrace and Northwest area. How long that's going to take, we're not sure at this point because they don't currently have a property for it, so they either need to lease, buy, and possibly build, hopefully not, but because that will just take more time. But it was positive to hear the Deputy Minister say that they are in this process of acquiring land to get a dedicated service for treatment and detox in Northwest BC.
Boytash also suggested dispersing services.
I think what the province probably should be considering doing is putting more pocket services in smaller communities to help people stay in their areas, because I think it's harder for folks when they're traveling for services, no matter what that service is. So I think it would be wise of the provincial government to look at putting more services in places like Kitimat, but in Dease Lake, Telegraph Creek, the Nisga'a Nation, all of these places and all across the province like that. They should be putting, more housing, more treatment, more. Like it's unfortunate, but these are the situation we're in all across the province.
For CFTK News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
And as the Central Interior Hockey League kicked off this weekend, it was a successful homestand for the Terrace River Kings as they won their home opener by a score of 8-2 over Hazelton, followed by an 11-2 win against Nechako the following day. The Kitimat Ice Demons also hosted the Smithers Steelheads this Saturday, with Smithers coming out on top with a 4-3 overtime win. In other hockey news, the Kitimat Sacs will once again not be in play for this season after missing last year after being a deferral in the NJHL. The team was hoping to join the league for the 2024-25 season, but expansion going forward looks pretty bleak going forward. And CFTK did reach out for the NJHL for a comment, however, no response has been given at the moment. Next up is a report on the Thornhill Fire Department, and they got the latest gadget that they recently got in their never-ending battle versus the fires. CFTK's Kale Maslin now with more of the details.
When it comes to fighting fires, regardless of whether it's at a house or in a forest, it's very likely that quite a bit of water will end up being used in order to try and put it out, and that can end up leading to less of it being available for others. But luckily for northern BC residents, the Thornhill Fire Department now has another new system that should help put out fires and conserve water.
Thornhill Fire, all our engines now are outfitted with it. It's called CAFs. And basically what it is compressed air and foam. And what it's doing is we're utilizing less liters of water mixture with compressed air, and the foam, we're actually getting double the suppression that we need. So whether a vehicle fire or a structure fire, we're utilizing half of the water that we used to and introducing compressed air and foam.
So far, the department has really liked the results that their new firefighting tool has achieved. Namely, vehicle fires have been put out a lot quicker without the need for extra fire hydrant water. And while it reportedly might not be the cheapest tool to use or maintain, it appears as if it can help save money in other areas.
So the foam definitely costs a little more, but cost efficient even in our town. Water costs money, right? So less water that we're using, the water restrictions that we've been on for the last few years and the droughts that we're going through, this is helping out in the community as well.
Another benefit of the foam suppression is that it can help further battle fires in rural areas where things like fire hydrants might not be as easy to find, and helps buy time for more resources to get to the scene. Each of the department's engines has foam on board, and it's not a stretch to think that other departments could follow in Thornhill's footsteps when it comes to the use of this new tool. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Kale Maslin.
Coming up next, the Assembly of First Nations is urging the Canadian government to advance their calls to action. Welcome back. Well, they're a common and useful tool to have, especially during the approaching colder months. But more information is being released about space heaters and how they may not seem as safe as they seek out to be. Here's Pat Foran from CTV.
When it's chilly, a space heater can provide a little extra warmth, but they can also be dangerous, as statistics show space heaters are still involved in about 1/3 of all home heating fires, so safety matters.
We run a series of safety tests to identify heaters that may pose a burn risk. The safest space heaters turn off automatically if they become too hot or if they're knocked over.
And does the heater have the potential to ignite flammable fabrics? This test checks for that and assigns a poor rating if the heater ignites a cotton towel on its hottest setting. Choosing the right space heater for your home comes down to what you want your space heater to do.
You need to consider whether you're just trying to warm yourself up or whether you're trying to heat an entire room. Our tests show that not all models can do both.
When it comes to space heaters, a convection heater with a fan will heat a small space quickly and efficiently. They're best for workshops and offices. An oil-filled radiator is quiet but takes much longer to heat rooms. It's best for living and bedrooms. Radiant heaters produce heat instantly but have limited range. They're best for workshops and garages. And baseboard heaters are quiet and able to heat large spaces. They're best for basements and family rooms. To stay safe, you should never use extension cords with portable space heaters, and always keep your heater on the floor and keep it at least 3 feet away from anything that can burn.
Well, with National Truth and Reconciliation Day just yesterday, the Assembly of First Nations is urging the Canadian government to advance their calls to action. Adrian Gabriel has more.
Residential school survivor Chief Harvey McLeod remembers the day the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its final report in 2015, outlining 94 calls to action.
Here I seen a paper and a document and a process with recommendations that said this is how we're going to work with you.
Jonathan Hamilton Dybo, the grandson of a residential school survivor, remembers the day as well.
There was this aspect of finally people know.
For Dybo, it was a national acknowledgement that what his grandfather experienced at the Carlisle Indian School in Pennsylvania wasn't an isolated incident south of the border. For McLeod, it was a step towards healing. though the Assembly of First Nations are urging the Government of Canada to advance progress towards fully implementing the calls to action.
Our numbers indicate that 80% of those that are either in the exclusive jurisdiction of the federal government or shared responsibility are in progress.
Many Indigenous peoples and survivors, when they hear the government saying, oh, we're working on it, oh, it's in process, they know what that means. They know it means that nothing is happening.
The federal Liberals say that through their work, 132 First Nation communities have had their boil water advisories lifted, though approximately 30 still don't have clean drinking water. In a first world country, some are still enduring third world conditions.
I can't imagine any mainstream Canadian town or village being without water for 20 years. That has occurred in this country for a First Nation.
Where would you rate where we are today with the 94 recommendations?
Reconciliation is not this finish line. And I think people are looking for this final check mark to say, we're done, the race is done, who's important in this? The survivors. This is a big part of what we have to keep thinking about.
One call to action is for all levels of government to work together to collect the copies of all records relevant to the history and legacy of the residential school system. That has yet to be fulfilled for survivors like Chief Harvey McLeod.
It took me a long time to reconcile with little Harvey.
As a young boy, McLeod was sexually assaulted at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School, where as many as 215 potential unmarked burials of Indigenous children were discovered. For McLeod, the calls to action are a path to peace for the child he once was.
Now it's time that he rejoins with me and allow myself to be that little kid and be that little kid all over again.
For there to be true reconciliation, there must also be truth. And one truth shared by many we spoke with is they simply don't feel safe in the presence of police. The Assembly of First Nations says that in recent weeks, officers have allegedly been involved in the killing of 9 Indigenous individuals. Omar.
Now turning to tonight's forecast, the coast should see about 20 to 30 millimeters of rain, with winds coming from the south at 50 kilometers per hour and perhaps increasing to about 80 at points, and they should have a temperature of 10 degrees. The Terrace and Kitimat area will have showers with winds coming from the south at 40 kilometers per hour and going as high as 60, and the temperature should stay around 7 degrees. And finally, the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District should have cloudy conditions with a 40% chance of showers overnight, and there will be a low of 3 degrees tonight. And now on to your weekly weather forecast. The coast will have rain and clouds for the entire week, so do not expect to see the sun anytime soon, and the temperatures should stay as per usual, pretty steady, at the high being 14 on Friday and the low being 7 degrees, which will be on Thursday night. The Terrace and Kitimat area should have the same sort of deal, with steady temperatures at 13 degrees being the highest and the low of 6 degrees situated on Wednesday night. And after some sun today, expect the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District to have clouds at minimum for the rest of the week, just with some chances of showers throughout most of the week. And the high will be 13 degrees on Sunday and the low will be 1 degree tomorrow night. And now on to your Northwest roadside report. Highway 16 sees construction work heading eastbound in Burns Lake and utility work heading westbound in Vanderhoof. Highway 37 has utility work near Delta Peak and roadside brushing near Misiadin Junction. And Inishka has construction work, maintenance, and bridge maintenance. Now let's take a look at the roads around the Northwest. Still to come, the Bank of Canada is now worrying about credit card debt among Canadian residents. Welcome back. Well, apple farms are somewhat of a social atmosphere, especially for families across BC. But unfortunately, one of BC's largest apple farms had to make some restrictions this year. And here's Yasmin Gandam of CTV.
They've grown to expect that amazing fruit that they can pick right off the tree, take it home, and enjoy it.
Lauren Taves is proud of the farm. His family has been operating in Abbotsford since 1991. Year after year, people flock back for their prized produce. But this year, a fungal infection took hold of the apples.
Like you can see those speckles, you can just see where those spores hit the fruit.
The disease or scabs on the apples are due to unusual weather, particularly rain in the spring.
Like multiple days, like 5 days straight. Back in late June, May into June, and even into July a little bit. And that was just enough to get that inoculum, which is the fungal inoculum, to attack that fruit.
Even though they are safe to eat, people won't buy them because they just don't look as appetizing. So the apples are being used in cider. It'll be sold at the farm, but Taves says they still face huge financial loss.
Big loss. It's definitely, you're looking over $100,000 in loss.
It's a perfect storm. In past years, the farm sees thousands of apple pickers a weekend, especially before Thanksgiving, a tradition for many families.
Kids that came, like they were like 5 years old, they're bringing their kids now, and to have a sign on the road that says, sorry, this orchard's closed, it's somewhat devastating for us to do that.
But Taves is already planning for next year.
In the Fraser Valley here, there are protectant sprays you can put on to protect the fruit.
The good news, the apples are still edible. They're even tasty. Yasmin Gandam, CTV News, Abbotsford.
And the Bank of Canada is now worrying about credit card debt among Canadian residents and how that may affect residents when it comes to paying for their homes. Here's Colton Prail of CTV News.
John Reddens considers himself lucky. His apartment is rent controlled. Still, on the first of every month, that payment wipes nearly his entire monthly income.
About 3/4 of it, I would say, it's taken. And then we have to decide what do we want.
It means purchasing those essentials with money he doesn't have.
We're using sometimes our credit card for food purchases.
But Reddens isn't alone in turning to credit cards. With less equity to access, so many renters are using credit that the Bank of Canada is starting to worry.
And this share is now above typical historical levels. This is concerning.
The percentage of renters carrying credit card debt of at least 80% of their borrowing limit has jumped from less than 1 in 5 in 2020 to nearly 1 in 4. And climbing.
The stress that this is causing is actually leading to declines in consumer spending on a per person basis. So this is very recession-like.
Across the country, rent prices are up nearly 6% year over year, with the average one-bedroom unit costing an extra $400 per month compared to 2020. Increasing the housing supply is a long-term solution, and experts say reducing immigration will help slow price increases short-term. But creating real affordability is still a long way off.
Combined with some modest and challenging supply environments, that is going to be a problem we'll see for the next 5-10 years.
Consumer credit card debt hit $122 billion this year in Q2, the highest it's been since 2007. According to Equifax, it's millennials and younger Canadians who are having the hardest time paying their bills. Colton Prail, CTV News, Ottawa.
And now we take a look at the stock market. The Canadian dollar is down a very small fraction. The price of gold is up about $31. Oil is up $1.66. Natural gas is down 2 cents. And the rate of aluminum has not changed. In Toronto, the TSX is up 33 points. The Venture Index is up about 6 points. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 173 points, and NASDAQ is down about 279. Well, former player Dikembe Mutombo passed away over the weekend at just 58 years of age, and Kathy Lee from CTV has an update of Mutombo's presence in the NBA.
Mutombo's in.
A formidable presence and defensive force under the basket, Dikembe Mutombo was renowned for his shot-blocking ability and his signature finger wave, iconic in the NBA. The 7'2" center earned numerous accolades during his 18 NBA seasons, including a Hall of Fame induction.
When you consider just the size of him and how physical his game was, that's sort of nothing short of incredible itself.
What's more incredible, Mutombo's work off the court. The NBA's first global ambassador, devoting his retirement to charitable and humanitarian causes, including a $29 million hospital he built in the capital city of his home country. The star's passing from brain cancer, a huge loss not just for the basketball world.
I went to Dikembe Mutombo's hometown with him. I went to his hospital. You have no idea what that guy means to the world. Everything you see as big as he is, his heart was bigger. Yeah, today is not a good day. Not a good day for sports, for us. For us in Africa, it's not a good day at all.
Mutombo's family revealed 2 years ago he was undergoing treatment for a brain tumor. A social media post from his son Ryan reads, "My dad is my hero because he simply cared. He remains the purest heart I have ever known."
My condolences and well wishes goes to his family. Also goes to the NBA community as well.
In a statement, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said Dikembe's indomitable spirit continues on in those he helped and inspired through his extraordinary life. Mutombo died surrounded by his family. He was 58. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
And things are moving in the federal government as we have a second non-confidence motion which will take place tomorrow. Here's Jeremy Sharon with a political update in Ottawa.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
With another week comes another test for the Liberal government.
The House has lost confidence in the government.
A vote on a second non-confidence motion this session set for Tuesday.
This is certainly an interesting time politically in Canada.
But now there is pressure too from the Bloc Québécois.
We will not go against who and what we are.
An ultimatum presented to the Liberals, setting a deadline for the federal government to meet its demands or risk losing power.
We give an extra deadline until October 29th, so there would be no point in putting a censure motion that would topple the government before we get to that deadline.
The Bloc wants to increase the old age security for seniors between 65 and 74 by 10%. And protect dairy, egg, and poultry farmers. The Bloc says talks with the Liberals are taking place.
If there were no discussions, we would take that as a no.
Neither has indicated yet how those talks are going, but strategists point to the popular path when it comes to supporting seniors.
All parties, in different ways or another, generally support more money for seniors, right? That's an inconvertible truth of Canadian politics.
But it would be a big spend, estimated to cost more than $3 billion a year.
The case has to be made as to why are we going to authorize a large new public expenditure for a particular purpose other than just to extend the life of Parliament.
And strategically, it likely won't help them gain support where they need it most.
Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are more popular among Canadians over 60 than they are among Canadians under 30. That is a complete reversal of what we've seen over the last decade.
New numbers from Abacus data out today show the Liberals have fallen to third behind the NDP outside of Quebec, while the Conservatives continue to lead by more than 20 points, a sustained gap the Liberals haven't found a way to close. Heather?
And that'll be all for now. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good night.